Great. Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate you coming here, learning to listen about website redesigns. My name is Josh Ditthardt. I'm a sales manager at Site Improve, where for the past 5.5 years, I've been helping government organizations with their digital strategy. Today's not going to be about me. If you're hoping to hear from somebody that has a PhD or an MBA, you're in the wrong session. If you're hoping to hear from someone that's been homeschooled from kindergarten through 11th grade, you're in the right spot. Today we're going to be talking about website redesigns. The title is Website Redesigns Done Right the First Time. It could be renamed to Website Redesign 101. And we're going to be breaking down this section into 7 different phases. Each of those phases are going to be focused on a different redesign process. So buckle up, there's a lot of content, and at the end there is going to be some time for questions, and I'd love to learn about you and your redesign processes as well. In 2016, Open Cities created a study of over 3,000 U.S. municipalities with a population of 10,000 and above. It might not be a surprise, but they found that local government organizations' sites lag considerably behind their commercial counterparts. The study found that 32% of government websites have poor mobile or tablet optimization, 87% have failing grades for encryption, 40%, and this one actually surprised me the most, 40% failed accessibility tests, and less than 9% are written at a reading level that the average American can understand. And if you're not aware, the average reading level of a U.S. adult is 8th grade. There was a very good quote from Jack Madden. He's the managing director of Open Cities. He said, "It's important to address why this disparity matters. We believe that the disparity comes with a price. When a citizen can easily buy an item on Amazon.com, yet struggles to find a city official or pay a utility bill online, it furthers their belief that government can't deliver." And I apologize that this is cut out here. He goes on to state, on the bright side, the report shows that more cities seem to understand that they need to move from a department-centric organization of their site to a service-centric organization. I probably don't need to tell this room, but your visitors expect to find the information they're looking for as quickly as possible. The purpose of a government website is to provide information. And when they're unable to do that, this creates frustration as well as a lack of trust and increases the chance of them driving to City Hall, driving to your state or federal department, calling, taking your valuable time as well as theirs. Both defeat the purpose of your website. So a redesign can resolve these issues as long as we have a clear purpose as to what we're trying to accomplish. So website redesigns are strategic and critical, and with technology constantly changing, it's important we do it correctly. Now, with that said, there are some bad reasons to redesign, and I've actually heard these from some people. Hopefully you're not in this bucket. So some of the bad reasons to redesign: your boss says so, or the mayor just says, hey, we're going to redesign, but there's no thought process as to what you're trying to accomplish. You just hired a new web designer, a web developer. We have a web designer, web developer, we don't know what to do with them. Maybe you should redesign the site. You're bored with the current look. This is the one I hear the most. Well, our site's 4 years old. The current look is outdated. We want to get into 2017, so we're going to go through a website redesign. You don't know whether or not the current site is achieving its purpose. You aren't getting enough traffic. The neighboring city or another state department's redesigned the site. And then another one that I don't have up here is a resident complaint. So those are some bad redesigns. On the flip side, here's some good reasons to redesign. Your organizational needs have changed. Pretty straightforward. You want to incorporate rebranding. Actually, earlier I was talking to a couple of cities that were rebranding, and through that, there's going to be a couple of counties, and through that, they're going to be redesigning their website. External technology has changed. CMS has changed or upgraded. Good reasons to redesign. Or the site is not meeting goals and objectives. So if you've determined, and we'll break down these in a little bit, but if you've determined that you are doing a redesign for the right reason, then the best way to begin that process is to brainstorm specific ways the site is going to provide visitors with true value. So simply being ambitious is not a strategy. Just saying I'm going to redesign my site is not a good enough strategy. So a true strategy identifies the biggest challenges your visitors face when coming to your site and how your new site can overcome those challenges. I think one of the issues that government websites face is there's so many hands in the pot, so many internal people either updating content or they want the websites to be for employees. They're not thinking about the end user, the visitor. So make sure that the end user is thought about at every stage of the redesign process. And this is called user-centered design. So UCD is a design philosophy where the end user's needs, wants, and limitations are the focus at all phases of the redesign process. Each year, I don't know if you've heard of GovTech probably, but they do a best of the web competition where government organizations can submit their website for different awards. And it's no surprise that government websites, the winning sites, tend to have high image, low text designs. This helps with readability. They prioritize accessibility and mobility and start with a design philosophy that puts the user first through search-centric design. So it's going away from that kind of department-centered website to search-centered. And that's the basis on which you should start your redesign process. So websites with value build rapport. A lot of times when talking to some of our clients, just the simple question of how your website is doing can't be answered. The typical answer is, well, I have more page views this month than last month. But that's really not a true indicator of whether your site's accomplishing its purpose. What it could actually mean is that people are not able to find the information that they're looking for. So many months, if not years, pass by after launching a new website and it's still unclear of how well or how badly the website is performing, and nobody seems to be able to put a value on it. So this is why the first phase of a website redesign is the definition and planning phase. And this is one of the most critical phases because this is where you define what you want your website to accomplish, and you actually get to put numbers to that. There are a couple of questions to ask when you're in this phase. So the first question, this is very simple. Why do you have a website? For government organizations, you have a website to provide information quickly for residents, businesses, visitors, the people who are coming to your site. So building off of that, what problem are you trying to solve? It's twofold. You have a problem. There's multiple hats that you wear. You never have enough time in the day to accomplish the purpose. So you want people to get the information on the website so they're not calling, emailing, driving in. And also the people coming to your site, they're also busy. They don't want to have to call in. They might have multiple kids that they have to take to daycare. They have a job that they have to do. They don't want to drive into City Hall to get something that should be on the website. So ensure all visitors are able to access information online. Question number 3 is when we actually start getting into the nitty-gritty. So what do you want people to do on your website? These are called your calls to action. For government websites, there could be dozens of calls to action. These are a handful, and I'm sure if I allowed you to mention some other CTAs, there would be multiple others. But pay a bill, subscribe to newsletters, sign up for Rec League, register for a permit. Multiple different calls to actions for a government website. And one of the ways that you can decide what your CTAs are is by looking at your analytics of your current site. So your analytics data provide a wide variety of opportunities for you to make educated decisions on your new redesigned site. So by looking at analytics, it's going to help you answer questions like, who are our users? Are they primarily people from your community, or do you get a lot of people from the outside area? Do you get a lot of unique users or returning visitors? What content do they look at? This is everybody's most popular pages. With that said, government websites are riddled with documents. There's tens of thousands in many instances of PDFs or Word documents on the site. So if you're looking to redesign, track the document downloads on your current site so you're only migrating the most popular documents. How do they end up on the website? This is traffic sources within your analytics. Do primarily people come from Google, Bing, Yahoo? Or are they coming from social media? And if so, what's your most popular social media platform? Where do they go? And what do they do when they come to your site? We're going to be talking about user journeys or funnels in a later session. This is where you can actually decide what's a starting point that you want them to come in, and what do you want them to do to accomplish, and how can you track where they're dropping off, or are they achieving their purpose? Where don't they go? As well as what feedback have we received from our users. So by gathering this information, we're going to have a better understanding of what our goals, objectives, and CTAs should be. And once we've identified those CTAs, we need to create key performance indicators or KPIs for the website. When I get to this section of talking to a lot of our clients, people typically say, well, we're not trying to make any money, so I don't know what our key performance indicators should be. Some key performance indicators that I could think of is what percentage of your residents do you want people to pay their utility bill? So 75% of the people, we want to pay our utility bill online, or we want 25 new newsletter signups each month. If you're a DNR, we want 90% of people registering for a fishing license to do it online. Put numbers behind your website, because that way you can actually track whether or not your site is achieving its purpose. I would suggest that if you're not actually planning on investing the time and energy into diving into your analytics, then there might not be many good reasons to do a website redesign. That would be like a sales organization hiring a ton of salespeople and not tracking whether or not those salespeople are hitting those numbers. So this stage is going to guide all remaining stages, so it's vital that you've clearly identified your CTAs and created your key performance indicators. Phase 2 of a website redesign is selecting a content management system. Selecting a content management system affects every member working on the website. The chosen CMS could be utilized daily by content authors and editors, so ultimately you're going to want to choose a CMS that does two things. It supports your requirements, it helps you accomplish your CTAs, and it's easy to use. So there are a lot of CMSs to choose from. You can either go with an open source tool like Drupal, WordPress, Joomla, or you can choose between many of the wonderful hosted solutions that are here at the conference. So when choosing a CMS, there's also a few things to consider. Number one is, how technical is my team? This is going to help you understand if you should go with an open source tool like WordPress or Joomla, or if you should choose that hosted solution. I was talking to a city, and they currently are using Drupal, and they want to go through a website redesign. Unfortunately, they have zero budget to allocate towards that redesign. And as I was talking to her, she was saying that there's nobody on her team who's technical enough to do a redesign with an open source platform. She is stuck with that current site. So off of that, what is the budget that you have for that redesign? Does the vendor that I've chosen understand my agency and the way that I work? How naturally does that product fit in with my vision? This is why the first phase, defining what you want your site to accomplish, is so important, because if you're meeting with a vendor and they're unable to accomplish your vision, it's not a good fit. Off of that, what customizations or compromises will we have to make if we choose this product? Is the CMS designed to support the size and type of website that I have? So one of the biggest advantages of an open source platform is that you have the control to be able to customize and add on whenever you'd like. You're not at the mercies of a hosted source. If your needs now and in the future, though, can be covered with the features of a hosted CMS, it doesn't make sense to invest in an open source platform when the core features of a hosted CMS will suffice. So does it support well-defined roles and permissions? The majority of government organizations are decentralized. There's people within different departments. So the CMS of choice, does it give me the ability to restrict people from adding content on certain pages of the website that they don't have responsibility over? A great resource out there, if you are considering choosing an open source platform, it's called cmsmatrix.org. This is just open source platforms, but it allows you to choose between hundreds of different open source CMSs, and then it'll show different features side by side of what they offer or what they don't offer. And the nice thing about being at this conference is that there are so many hosted solutions that you do have the opportunity to talk to some of those CMS experts. Nobody likes talking to vendors, trust me. I understand, but stop by, ask what they do differently than all of the other competitors. Phase 3, the RFP is done, you've chosen a CMS, good job. Now we can get on to the fun part, that is site structure and content review or audit. So before you can decide what content you're going to include in the redesigned site, you need to decide, or you need to figure out what's on your current site that you're going to migrate over. So with this, you'll be creating a content inventory. An inventory or review is performed to understand, as I mentioned, what's on your site, why it's there, and if we're going to move it over. The inventory can also become a valuable resource post-launch because if you continue to stay up to date with what's on the site, you can create additional style guides or rules on what you want people to publish. So there are templates online. If you just literally search in Google, website inventory template, you can download that and it'll get you a starting point. But the issue with that is that it's all manual. It requires you to have to go page by page and create that inventory. And sometimes that's the longer process of a website redesign. So consider investing in a tool that manually does that for you, and it can cut down a lot on the time. So things to include when creating an inventory would be the pages. My current site, what are the pages that I have? How many page views do each of those get? What is the purpose of that page? And then the reading level as well. Of those pages, what is the page title? Are any of the page titles duplicate? I see all of the time where it says, since we're in San Diego, I'll just pick on San Diego, City of San Diego, California, and it's not descriptive as to the purpose of that page. Documents, what are the documents? What are the file types of documents, as well as the file size? Videos, pictures, phone numbers, email addresses. We actually have talked to government organizations where on a quarterly basis, when they have an inventory, what they'll do with their email addresses, for the internal email addresses, they'll just send an internal blast and see the bounce back that they get, and that's how they know whether or not people have left or if they have misspelled email addresses. They don't want to include that on the new site. So an additional benefit of having an updated inventory, as I previously mentioned, is that it allows you to create rules around what you want the content contributors to follow. So do you want Word documents on your website, or do you only want PDF? What phone number format do you want on your site? So having an updated inventory gives you insight into what people are posting out there. And after you've created that inventory, what we're going to do is separate your content into 4 statuses. This is what we know we're going to bring to the new site. This is called the ouch status. I didn't make this up. This is out in the World Wide Web. So the first one is out of date. This is content that is still useful, content that's on your current site that's still useful, but you're going to need to update it. Maybe the page title needs to be more descriptive. Maybe you need to update the reading level. Next is unnecessary. This is content that should not be moved to the new site. One of the areas that can be helpful with this in your analytics tool is if you look at least popular pages. Especially if you're decentralized, people think that their section of the site's the most important and they're just slapping up pages. And if you have an old site, there could be pages that are 10 years old, and unfortunately most of the time nobody deletes those pages. So use analytics, see if they're even being viewed. Some analytics tools out there even show pages with 0 visits. That's even more beneficial because you can sit down with those departments and say, hey, 75% of your pages haven't been viewed in the last 6 months to the year, so either define why we should have this on the new site or let's get rid of them altogether. C is current, up to date, and ready to move. This is perfect. Everything's ready to go. We just need to, once we have the new template, copy and paste to the new site. And then the last of the ouch is have to write. This is content that needs to be created, but that's later in the process. The other part of this phase, after we've created that inventory and separated into those statuses, is creating your site structure or navigation of your site. So navigation should move visitors towards their goals. Unfortunately, what happens with pages is that content contributors add all of this extra stuff just in case somebody wants to view it. But instead of helping your visitors or pointing them to the proper information, it confuses them because there's so much content out on that page that they don't know what to choose from. Every time you add an element, be it a text, graphic, picture, every other element on that page becomes less important. Sometimes we see this on homepages. Homepages are a portal of information. It's a landing page to push people to other areas of your website, and it requires so much scrolling, but sometimes people don't know what to do when they get to that homepage. In the GovTech report I previously mentioned, it states that 94% of the award winners from previous years use analytics data when making decisions on how to improve the website. To fully understand your visitors, you need to walk a mile in your shoes. And within analytics, one of the areas to see how people are getting hung up on is there's multiple different names for it. It can be user journeys, behavior tracking, or funnels. This is where you can choose a start point and an end point. So look at your calls to action. If I want somebody to, let's say, sign up for a rec league, most people come in at the homepage. How do people come from the homepage and sign up for that rec league? And funnels or user journeys is going to follow or show that path. We can see where people get hung up, where they're dropping off, or if they're getting to that end points. And other areas of analytics, I'll talk about behavior maps next and what you can do with behavior maps to drive specific decisions. So understanding how people navigate on your site will help when creating the navigation of your current site. So if you aren't accomplishing your CTAs, behavior maps will show where they stop in that path. Phase 4, the next phase, is visual design. And this can be one of the most debated parts of a redesign project because everybody who has a hand in the website has an idea of what the new site should look like. So a few things to consider when focusing on visual design is prioritize good design and good user experience. So a great website both needs to be beautiful and user-friendly. Get creative, but make sure that your website doesn't disrupt user experience. And this is when behavior maps, click maps, scroll maps, and heat maps can be valuable. So behavior maps will allow you to get a clear visual of what visitors actually do when interacting with your website. And pairing this with funnels is really valuable. So if you see that somebody is not getting to that rec league, look at that page where they're dropping off. Go into your behavior maps and see what's drawing visitors' attention. Or if your call to action, if the sign up for the rec league link is on the bottom part of the page and people are interacting with the top part on your new site, make sure that you have that call to action higher up on the website. There was a university in New York that they had their majors and minors page, and the top half of the page was all of their majors, and then it required a lot of scrolling, and the bottom half of the page was all of their minors. And students had no trouble registering for majors. Unfortunately, they had problems registering for minors. They were calling their advisors, and they're saying, I can't register for minors. What is the problem? The advisors got frustrated, called the marketing department, and said, hey, why can't my students find the minors on the website? So the marketers looked at the scroll maps within their analytics and realized that the students weren't scrolling far enough down on the page to get to the minors. So for Union College, as they're focusing on a redesign, they're noticing that the average person coming to their website doesn't scroll. So their pages are not going to require any scrolling on the site. Another aspect of visual design is deciding design requirements. So does your site need to feature specific colors, certain logos? Should each department follow the same format, or do they have their own branding we need to take into consideration? So once you've established those requirements, step back and allow the professionals to do their job. Allow them to create what the site should look like. Design with accessibility in mind. One of the things I love about NAGW is their huge focus on accessibility and teaching everybody about web accessibility. Government websites serve people, so if you decide not to focus on website accessibility, you're not serving everybody. And based on a 2010 U.S. Census Bureau, there's nearly 1 in 5 people living in the United States with a disability. So deciding to have an accessible website now should not be a choice. And if you spend the time designing an accessible site, you're going to save time, money, and the potential risk of litigation down the road. We're already seeing that some local government organizations are getting class action lawsuits with the Department of Justice and Office of Civil Rights. One of the many benefits of hosted solutions, if that's the route that you go, is that they build already with accessibility in mind. They build an accessible template and then pass off that for you as you migrate the content. But remember, if your content contributors are responsible for migrating or building that content, it's on you to make sure that you're training all of your content contributors on the importance of what is an alt tag, what's color contrast or link text as well. Bullet point number 4 under visual design is create page mockups and prototypes. It can be hard to envision what your current site or what your new site is going to look like. So by creating page mockups in Photoshop or HTML is going to give you a clear picture of the finished project. So take time to create these and then host focus groups or elicit feedback. I want to say it was the state of Utah a few years back, and I could be wrong, but they were going through a website redesign, and when you went to their current site, it popped up and it had two different formats. It said, hey, here's two different redesign looks that we want, and it asked for the visitors of the site to choose which their favorite format was. And based on that, then they knew what the design look was going to be. Take a true mobile and tablet first approach. So earlier in my talk, when I discussed the Open Cities study, I mentioned that 32% of participants had poor mobile and tablet optimization. This wouldn't be an issue if people were not browsing the internet with a mobile phone. However, there was a study from Digital Analytics program that was closed at the end of 2016, and it showed that tablet and smartphones accounted for 43% of web traffic. Last year, a year ago, I spoke on analytics, and at that time, 33% of people were coming to websites with a mobile phone. So in a year, it's increased by 10%. Last section of visual design is create website standards. So the visual design stage is when you should create rules post-launch that you want people to follow. So some of your web standards can be created around the content that you gather in the inventory, like documents, email addresses, phone numbers, readability of your website. Because new websites bring a new sense of excitement, content contributors and departments now have this revived passion for the website. So there's an increased chance of errors happening. Inconsistencies slip through the cracks. So consider investing in a tool that's going to help you build those rules and notify you if errors do happen. Phase 5, getting down to the 7th phase, is site development. So the 5th phase of a website redesign is a technical phase that can be challenging. In this section, you will create templates within your CMS. So templates give structure to your pages. Through style sheets, you can design a structure with a cohesive look and feel. In site development, you also need to ensure that the site is SEO friendly. All too often, I've heard that, well, since I'm a government organization, I don't need to focus on SEO because I have the .gov, Google automatically gives me a higher ranking. This is flawed thinking because yes, you might get a little bump in your search engine ranking because you've got the .gov, but people aren't getting to the content that they're looking for if you don't have SEO-friendly pages on your site. And one of the added benefits of making sure that all of your pages have descriptive page titles, you have descriptive headings, is it also helps with accessibility. If you're migrating content from your current site to your redesigned site, this is where that inventory or that ouch status can come in handy because we've already identified what the page titles are for all of the pages. We can make sure that we update them. This is also when we're going to run tests on templates. It's important that throughout every phase of a redesign, we're running specific tests. So this is when we can fix any potential errors and make sure that your team can use them effectively to upload and edit content. We're also going to create a content migration strategy. So this is when we start bringing all of the content from our old site to our new site, as well as writing new content. Once you start this, add high-level content first. So start on the home page, add that, and then build out from there and have all your content contributors fill in the information for all other areas or sections of the site. Last phase in the site development is cleaning up the content errors. So after your content contributors get their hands on the site, errors are going to happen. It's going to happen. A common misconception is, since I'm doing a website redesign, I'm going to have no errors on my website. So if you're migrating content from the old site to the new site, the broken links, the misspelled words will slip through the cracks. So it's unrealistic to think that you won't have any errors. So find a tool that is going to comb through your site. If you have to do that manually, it's going to be like back in the day when you had a book report and you read that thing multiple times to try to find that one misspelled word, and it was in the page title the whole time because you were so used to it. Errors will happen. Phase 6 is testing. So this is a little deceiving because testing should take place throughout the entire redesign process. So not just at the end. If you're performing ongoing quality checks during each phase of your redesign, you'll be able to cross off the final testing phase with ease. And prior to final testing, all redesign work should be done. No more content should be migrated. It's 100% complete. And once you get to this point, get feedback from an internal audience. We'll allow employees to come on your site and give them a channel to offer their feedback. This is a valuable opportunity to collect that so you know how to fix the site even before it goes live to your outside audience. If you're feeling up to the challenge, pull in a focus group of people outside your organization and create scenarios as well. Go back to your calls to action and say, hey, from the website, go here and watch what they do. Ask them to perform those KPIs. 64% of the GovTech winners surveyed the public prior to a redesign. And the more people willing to test, the better. And after testing is complete and the feedback has been examined, draft a list of all of those outstanding items and rework that new website to fix those. So once that is done, you are ready for launch. Congratulations, the new site's launched. So this phase 7 may seem simple. There's a lot that goes, though, into a website post-launch. With a brand new website, you want to make sure that all the links lead visitors to the right place and not accidentally to the developmental site. If you did all of the steps properly, you should have an error-free site, but not for long. So don't allow the quality of your site to dip post-launch. In order for a website to not get stale, content should be updated on a regular basis. And to keep content updated, create an editorial calendar, even if you create new newsletters or create blogs, just so you're engaging with your residents or the visitors to the site. Also, continuously check the content for quality. As more content's being added, it raises the potential risk for broken links. So that is the 7 phases of a website redesign. To recap, phase 1 is definition and planning. So that's what are we trying to accomplish? Phase 2, selection of a CMS. Will the CMS I'm choosing allow us to accomplish our goals? Phase 3, site structure and content review. Create a content inventory and build the information architecture. Phase 4, visual design. Create the look and feel of the new website. 5, the site development. Create the new site by designing templates and then adding content. Phase 6, testing. And phase 7, launch and post-launch analysis. So, any questions at all? Okay. Sure. Has anyone else redesigned and yeah? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
In terms of the content inventory, like, what do you think is the best way to kind of collect it or notate it to make it easily, easily accessible so you can pick and choose stuff? I mean, if you have a site with 1,000 pages and 3,000 PDF, like how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's why that process can be one of the most take one of the longest times, is because you sometimes have to do that manually, go page by page and find that information. So one of the better options is looking for a tool that can do that automatically for you.
Do you have any suggestions for tools?
There's one.
Well, there's one that's definitely out there. Shameless plug, Site Improve can do that. But yep.
There's another tool called CAT that'll work, but CAT. But to speak that site improvement, at least in our organization, only can do your inventory from outside a firewall.
True.
And depending upon your situation, you might also need to do an inventory inside a firewall. And I don't, it depends upon how big your organization is, construction and so forth. If that's the case, you might, if you have luxury of having a VBA or no SQL or something, go that way. Just a caution. There's many great books on how to do it. You go online and search for the content inventory and
Thanks, Lynn.
Oh, I just have a suggestion. During that phase 3, that's where I would incorporate your user testing, your usability testing, before you start getting into the real nitty-gritty of building it, because then you've gotten too far in some cases and you can't make changes. So I really recommend right around that phase 3, you bring in some outside people, look at your wireframe, and make sure that everything works and they can find everything they need to get past it.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite hear the question, the first question, but who was the audience that's using 97? We ran analytics and we're, not even close to IE7 supporting.
We were actually shocked to see that it wasn't a significant amount of people, but there were some of them who were using Insight. Active Measures is like, it's a nationwide program and we provide using applications as well. So there were some cities in rural Texas, as well as some cities in parts of Georgia. We were facing issues. They were still using IE7. And when it comes down to IE11, they also have option of using it in compatibility mode. So when you use in compatibility mode, the structure of the site, web pages will be completely different from how it should. So we were trying to tackle that issue as to how we can make those changes and accommodate all the options and features that we provide.
Thanks, I was just curious. I guess when I look at our analytics, at some point you have to have a cutoff, right?
Yeah.
You can't just say there are 10 people using IE7, we still got to develop or something.
Exactly.
So I was curious.
Yeah.
I just had a comment in regards to phase 4 through 6. We're currently in play right now on Redesign. And one incredible resource that's basically at no cost that I've been able to get in this area of space has been over at County, through the County Library. And so we've been able to do UX testing, but also doing some regular run through the site design with people's feedback at no cost, just to help us be able to libraries.
Yeah, Lynn.
I have a question or a observation. So, I'm wondering why you put selection of CMS as phase 2 before the site structure and content review audit.
I mean, a lot of instances, depending on what CMS you choose, they're going to create that site structure for you. So if you go with a hosted solution, sometimes they already have multiple different platforms as far as the site structure.
Because I've had most success in getting content contributors and managers to be proactively cleaning up their
Sure.
Before the selecting the CMS, there's an incentive, where you get that, and then they're not like, oh, the CMS is here, hurry up and like do a quick cleaning. You know, when you move in a hurry, all you do is take your old crap and move it to your house, and then it's your box.
Yeah. I've also seen some hosted solutions that will help you with that inventory as well. So that, I mean, it can go either way.
This is actually the process that we're going through right now. We've done the definition and planning, we just selected our CMS, and we're going through the site structure. So this process is following suit with the way we were going about it, because we're moving from in-house hosting to cloud-based, from
Okay.
open source DNA to proprietary. So for us, it's actually follows suit with what we're doing. And then our users will have to come up to par with the standards that we're setting
Nice.
in order for us to support their content. Now working on community college.
Great. Did you have a question?
No, I was just going to make a comment of phase two. Some of us are just not have the luxury of selecting the CMS. Sometimes you just stuff with what you
True.
have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least if you know that up front, and then you know what the challenges are that you're going to take for the steps.
Yeah, then you can just eliminate phase two and go through all the other steps. Yeah. Great. Well, I appreciate it. If there's any other questions, feel free to come up and ask. And enjoy lunch. Go back one slide.